Hi, it's Dan Beck, and I'm here promoting my web channel with YouTube. We're looking at the wisdom of Jesus. Um, Matthew 4, verse 4 through 11, it, um, it tells the story of the temptation. Um, it said of Jesus that he was tempted just as we are. And so these three temptations of Jesus are very similar, I think, to the way we are all tempted. And it's important that we succeed as he did in countering Satan's suggestions and ideas for things that we should do. And he fasted for 40 days and 40 nights, and the devil has said to him, "Well, now if you are who you say you are, the Son of God, why command these stones to be turned into bread?" And Jesus' response is, "Man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God." And here Satan is basically appealing to Jesus's own personal needs, and Jesus is saying, uh, if we look around ourselves, we should say the same thing. Animals have one priority in their life, and that's survival. But if that's man's only priority, he's missing out. Man has to have a fulfilling life. He has to have life, liberty. He has to be able to pursue his happiness, and that means that he has to be able to choose. And all those things is what God has put the whole world here for us to learn to choose, make all these choices about what path we're going to take. So life is a fulfilling life is really life, and an unfulfilling life is not life at all. And I think that's a good observation thing to consider. So that's the first one, attack that Satan said, take care of your personal needs. And I want to speak to this one thing because a lot of people say, well, you have to love yourself before you can love anybody else. And then they work their whole life trying to love themselves, and they never get around to anybody else. Come on, yourself might be the hardest person in the world to love. That shouldn't stop you from beginning to love other people as much as you can. In fact, I think that we learn more about make ourselves more lovable by being in love with those around us, by loving those around us. Quit trying to love yourself and make peace with yourself all the time. Get outside yourself and do something for somebody else. Get off your ass and do something, and then you will find something about yourself to love. Make yourself lovable. You will love yourself. That's, I think, is a good point at any rate. And it has something to do with taking care of your personal needs and changing that rock into bread versus recognizing that we don't live for bread alone, but we live for the words of God. What do the words of God say? Love me and love your neighbor as yourself. Now get out there and do that, and then you'll learn to love yourself. At least that's one of the temptations that Jesus was dealt with. What was the second one? Um, I took him up to a high pinnacle. He said, "Okay, throw yourself down, because it's written that God gives the angels charge concerning thee, lest you foot dashes against the stone." He's the angel is going to protect you. You're the Son of God, and so what do? Throw yourself down. And Jesus' response is, "Hey, it's also written not to put the Lord thy God to the test." You don't test and pull against love, but it's a very common human trait. You look at a little baby growing up, a little toddler, and when he's not getting his mom's attention, what does he do? He throws himself on the floor and starts crying, and the big thumping mom runs, and what a baby does and maturity does is try to force love into happening. And that's really what the devil was trying to encourage Jesus to do. You're suffering out here, make God pay attention to your needs. Make God show he loves you. And anytime that you're forcing love to happen like that, uh, you're being manipulative. You're really, the more manipulative you are, the more you're separating yourself from the very spiritual thing that love is, because love has to be offered with a free heart, and it can't be manipulated into existence, and uh, and you can't perceive it as you should perceive it if you've acquired it by deceitful means. And any forced love is like rape. It's abusive. Any forced love is not really love at all. It's just the appearance of something close to love. So don't do that. And that's what Jesus is saying. That he recognizes that we're going to be having these same struggles with temptations, and he had them, and his response was, "Don't try to toy with love. Don't toy with it. Don't try to see how far you can push it." The third temptation was that he brought him up and he said, "Oh, look all around you as far as your eye can see, and I have this power. I'll give it all to you. All you have to do is fall down and worship me." And Jesus is saying, response is no, no. Life is more than all these things, and love is more important than all these things. And it is written, "Thou shalt love the Lord thy God, and him only shalt thou serve." Now, a lot of people look at that as him only shalt thou serve. But Jesus also says, he connects the love of our neighbor to ourself. He says, the second commandment is like unto the first. The first is to love God, and the second is love your neighbor as yourself. And so, in loving your neighbor as yourself, you are engaging in the very love that God wants you to engage in, because he knows that his place with you hinges on your ability to also love your neighbor, and it sort of takes us back to that loving yourself first versus getting off your butt and going out and making yourself lovable. It's very much comes back around full circle. Anyways, so those are the three greatest temptations, and I think that when Satan says, fall down and worship me, I just think that he's sort of, the temptation is not always to worship the devil, let's say, but to worship your own personal desires, your own personal needs. And the bottom line is, that's what Satan's saying, is put material things, or put me, the co-creator with God, the wonderful angel in the beginning who helped God do the creation, put the things of God more important than the love of God. That's the temptation. And the third one, and the final one, is get behind me, Satan. That's Jesus' response. Jesus, but get behind me. Hey, you give it your best shot. You're so far off base. Like, we're here to be loving beings, and our priority needs to be that above anything material. And that's the big challenge. His big challenge is all these other, our needs and this and that. They tell us, oh, we have to love money because that's going to put food on the table and feed our, we connect all these dots for an excuse to love things above the love of God. And we're going to miss out when we do that, because we're eternal beings, and we got to live with our senses of self, senses of priorities. We got to live with those eternally. And we don't fight a battle of flesh and blood, but a battle of principles. And principles are based upon priorities. And when he says, forces of darkness and wickedness in high places, he's talking about, priorities, and he's talking about deep primal priorities that people have, that we're afraid, and we want to survive, and we're afraid to love, because love is sometimes saying, give your all, give your all. And we're afraid of it. It makes sense. But live a life as if you are eternal, because that's what you are, and you were created to love. And I think that's the message. And like and share and comment and anything else that you can do to highlight this message, because if you don't do that, everything that I've done so far is just kind of a waste of time for except for the people that have received it and benefited from it. I mean, help me get the word out. I'm nobody in particular. I sat on this for a long time and didn't do anything. Tried not to get myself out there, but it's not about me anyways. And
so subscribe, check like and share.
Hit the like, hit the share. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Mary.